it's what they didn't say to their kids. I've heard more parents say, I wish I could have said this to my child. And so when I got my first church, in my tradition, before I can be a pastor, I had to be a chaplain for a year at a hospital. That's the way
Hmm.
they train us. And so when I got my first church, one of the things we do at confirmation in a Presbyterian church, you go through when you're 11 and 12, a time where the children step into their own of their faith, and they write a statement of faith and they tell, and the congregation accepts them as adult Christians. I have children write their parents, I have parents write their children a letter. And I say, what you want to write to your child is why you believe. And if you feel honest enough, share with them a time when you didn't want to believe and you believed anyway. And in one of those situations, we had a mom who died shortly after she wrote that letter. And the daughters had the letter framed. And they underlined the parts in it where she had her greatest doubt. So something she had kept from them their whole life, because she thought it was a bad witness for Jesus Christ, was the best witness she could have had for Jesus Christ, because she shared with them her humanity, what made her human. And now this happened 15 years ago, they're mothers and they're married now and have their own kids. And they've already started on the letters, because they're not going to my church anymore, that they want to give their daughters when they go through confirmation or when they reach that threshold where they call themselves an adult. And it's that piece of you that says that I'm human, I made mistakes, that didn't work out the way I wanted to work, but this is why I believe anyway. And that can be a great gift you can give to your child, your adult child.
Right. I always encourage parents to be transparent and vulnerable. And when you mess up, say you're sorry. There's nothing wrong with being human and admitting that you've made a fault or made a mistake, and you're going to try to do better and then try to do better.
Yeah. And
So,
go ahead.
no, you're fine. I
Well,
have a feel. I have a feeling I could just wind you up and let you go for an hour.
things I also encourage people to do too in our church, and because I work with people who've been abused, is that when you were raising your kids, that was a tough time, because a woman celebrity has written a book called The Longest Shortest Time. In other words, it's the longest time in the world, because you're financially stressed, you're emotionally stressed, you're not emotionally stressed, and you haven't gotten enough sleep because you have young children around you. And yet it's the sweetest time because you get to see them grow up. And it's also the time when you get the most angry at them. But during that time, you can't really share with them what happened to you. So if you're a survivor of abuse, chances are there's a family legacy that's been passed on, and you couldn't share that with them when they were kids. But when they're adults and have their own kids, that's a good time to have those talks with them by saying, you know what, this is kind of in our family. And I had a discussion with the permission of his mother with my nephew. I said, because she was asking he was asking, why are things strained between you and grandma? And I said, she's a really good grandma, but she wasn't a good mom. There was something inside of her that stopped her from doing that. And she still struggles with that. And I want you to love her as a grandma, but please know this is in our family. And my sister was in that conversation, so we could both share together that this is something that tends to happen in generation after generation. And it hasn't happened to you.